Today's another day. Actually, not just another day. Today is September. The hell did I get that from? No. Today is Saturday, the 11th of January. And next week on the 17th is the beginning of Roadkills Ziptie drags. So last year I did that event with Lemonator, which is that blown 340 4-speed Duster. It's got a 671 blower. I flew to Tennessee, bought that car, made it got it a little bit more roadworthy, and then drove it to Ziptie drags and raced it. And in between Tennessee and Ziptie drags, it broke down several times. Several times. So, but I still made it. Now, this year, Lemonator's still broken. Shocker. But anyway, that's a later thing. Right now, I got a whole bunch of goodies on top of this table right here. We got a Borgeson steering box. We have a lightweight lithium braille battery right here. Got all the fittings to put this in the car. Got some PRW 16 rockers. And we got a old cylinder head. What I've done with the cylinder head is I mocked this up on the cylinder head because it comes with a whole bunch of shims. Like, I don't know, so I can dig them out. Oh, here's some shims right here. It comes with all these shims and spacers and all, and you got to shim the rockers where they need to be. So basically I used this head as a dummy head, so I shimmed everything up. So that way I wasn't under the hood trying to do all that crap on Smurf. Yes, Smurf is the one that's getting all these goodies. So, let me show you. Huh, Sam? The battery on Smurf has gotten real weak. So, that's why we got the battery. The rockers on this engine clatter like hell. It sounds like a damn sewing machine. So that's why it's getting the rockers. The steering box doesn't have a lot of play in it, but it started leaking. Yes, I can just put new seals in it, pull it out, and rebuild it, but why? We can upgrade it. On this car, anything that fails, I'm upgrading it with a better part. So, better rockers, better battery, better steering box, and that's just for now. You know, what I am going to be doing to this car before summer hits is we're going to be putting some trick flow heads on it and a tunnel ram. The trick flow heads is for cooling. I know it doesn't sound right, but it is, because the trick flow heads are going to be ceramic coated. I'm sorry you guys had to see that in the background. That's a friend's car, so he wanted me to do something stupid to it. Yes, this 4-cylinder S10. Put a turbo on it. Chevy people. I'm a Chevy guy too. Well, I'm mostly Mopar, but I do like a few Chevys. But that is just dumb. It's his car, he likes it, he wants to do that. Anyways, so first thing I'm going to do is actually do the steering box. Because I'm tired of this thing leaking like a pig all over my freaking... Oh yeah, I forgot to show you one of the best parts. So, one thing too is the tires on Smurf are completely bald. They are slicks. So what do we do when we got bald tires? I could just buy a new set of tires. Yeah, I know. No. What I did is I found a set of original Daisy Mags, and then we put some badass tires on it. Went and got the tires not ceramic coated, but powder coated and polished. So that way, this gives me that badass old school look. And then to make it even better, show you right here. I bought a tire decal kit from Treadwear, because this is going to say Formula One Superstock, just like the old Superstock tires you can get in the 70s. So that, I took a picture of it, so I'll link it in this. I can't put them on right now because those are some really deep offsets on that thing. I mean, you can't really appreciate how deep the offset is till you look at it from an angle. And if I put those on there, it'd be sticking way out. And I know that's the 70s way to do it, but I like it when they're tucked in better. Oh yeah, and Leonard's Hellcat setup's about to go in the car. So, I have a rear end at the driveline place right now getting shortened. It's being shortened 3 inches. They're welding a brace to the back of it to stiffen the rear axle, which, I mean, I could do that. And I could shorten it myself. But, you know, I don't have time, so I just dropped that off. They're doing it right now. And then we're getting Moser axles for it, because once I put the trick flow heads and the tunnel ram on the old girl, this thing here should be making, well, it's not just getting trick flow heads. It's getting trick flow heads, tunnel ram, roller cam, aluminum water pump housing, and then the other upgrades I mentioned. Oh, and aluminum radiator. So, oh, I forget where I was going with that cooling thing is when you ceramic coat your cylinder heads, that drastically drops your coolant temps. And in the summertime, Smurf gets hot. So, doing that. The General, which is on the back side of that trailer, you can probably just see the quarter panel right there. I'm doing the same thing to that car. That one also has overheating issues in the summer. So, we have some L-Brock heads here. There's the E-Streets. But what I found out about the E-Streets, yes, so they're the cheaper heads, but it's the same casting as the Performer. It just isn't ported, and it doesn't have lightweight valves in it. And it's got flat tappet springs on it. Well, I'm throwing away the springs. The valves are fine. And then I'm just going to port the heads out myself. So then I'll have a really nice set of ported L-Brock heads that will be ceramic coated to go on the General. And not just the General's engine that's in it now, because the engine that's in the General right now is toast. It smokes like a freaking freight train. It looks like I'm on fire when I'm sitting at a stoplight. So, the General is getting a 426 wedge, and that's at the machine shop right now. Anyway, back to this. So, jack it up in the air, pull the old steering box off, and start getting everything ready for this, because I am going to have to weld. Here's the adapter to go from this to the steering column, which this isn't really intended for the factory steering column. I'm going to have to modify that, and I got a little bit of steering shaft here. So I got this guy right here. So I'm going to do what I can with what I got, TIG weld it all together, and having this steering coupler right here, this is more like the race car stuff that we used to run, or still run. This will have far less play in it than that factory coupler that's on that thing. And this is a 14-to-1 steering box instead of the 18-to-1 steering box that's on it. So now when I'm out drifting with Smurf, I won't have to be whipping the steering wheel around as much. Looks cool, but you have to do a lot of whipping. All right, well, I'm gonna hop to it. So as I'm sitting there jacking up Smurf, I realized I forgot to tell you about the new sound system going in Smurf. So I made this little bracket here so I can put two 4.5-inch JBL speakers on it. I have a retro sound deck so it'll look somewhat stock in the dash, and I got some Pioneer speakers to throw in the back because I had them. So that's also going to get done on Smurf, because I can't be rolling down the highway to zip tie drags without listening to some cool highway tunes. Alright, well, let's see. Let's get back to getting this thing done. Alright, finally got the steering box out. I didn't record some of that because it was just a lot of unbolting and kind of going, what the so anyway, I remember when I put that steering box back in, I was like, well, I hope I don't have to pull the steering box out for a long time, because this thing is a bitch to get in, and it's going to be a bitch to get out. Well, of course, I had to pull it out. But at least we're replacing it with good stuff. There's the Borgeson box. Of course, I pull this out. Sammy automatically has to come over and say hi. But, yeah, I had to unbolt the control arm. I had to take torsion bars out, which is typical. I can't remember on the if you don't have headers, which I have headers, and pretty much all my cars will have headers because I hate the way stock manifolds sound. But I had to remove the torsion bar, had to remove the control arm, had to undo the sway bar. Of course, everything up here, pull the steering column out, or at least slide it back. I'm gonna have to pull it all the way out so I can pull the coupler off. Then I gotta pull the pin out and get it so I can prep it to weld it to the new coupler. And then I had to jack the engine up just to get that little bit of extra to pull it out. It was a bitch, but it's out. So I'm going to get the new steering box ready to go in, and then I can start mocking up the steering column so I know where to weld the coupler on it. I want to make sure the steering wheel's straight. All right, well, let me get back on that. So I have angered Smurf. When I jacked the engine up so I can get that steering box out, well, someone had siliconed the oil pan, and I figured there was a tiny little pinhole there. Well, I've aggravated it. So now I just need to drain the oil and weld that up. Or attempt to. If I can't, I'm just going to replace the pan. Oh, Smurf. Oop, about to pop my back. Oh, I feel good. Yeah, here we go. All right, it's another day. Huh, Sam? Yeah. Well, after yesterday's little snafu with the oil pan, it was smothered in Bondo, and then there was a little dab of silicone that was always on the oil pan. I just figured it was from somebody's finger swiping across it. I didn't really think much of it. But when I lifted the engine up, so that way I could get that factory steering box out, I must have disrupted their Bondo job, and then the oil pan started leaking like crazy. Just drip, 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 drip. So I was like, you know, you can just patch it. I was thinking I could just weld it up, but when I wire wheeled the oil pan so I could see what was all there, it was so pitted, and just that's why it was so full of Bondo. So who the hell oil pan or Bondo's oil pans? I mean, this is the oil pan that was on Patina's 440 engine, so I'm just gonna slap this on Smurf with the windage tray and run that. But I mean, an oil pan, new, they're like 50 bucks. You spent, whoever did that spent more time wasted bondoing it and doing through all that work just to make it look decent than just slapping another freaking oil pan on it. So it's just stupid. Anyways, gonna get the steering box ready to bolt on, get this sucker bolted on, and then get the I gotta take the drag link off the other side so that way I can get the oil pan down. So this morning I'm gonna put the steering box on, get the oil pan on, and get the drag link back on it. That's probably about as far as I'm going to get today, but less yapping and I need to get to work. That's a lot smaller. Well, the 402 pan I had wasn't going to work. It's the pan that came off of Patina's 440 engine. What was on this car, what was on Smurf, was a 933 pan, which it doesn't have the built-in bafflings. So for hard braking or hard acceleration, there's no baffle. It's just a big open bathtub. With the 402 pans, there's a baffle in the front and a baffle in the back to help with slosh. So that's what I was going to put on there, but the pickup tube that was on there was for the 933, and it will not work with a 402 pan. So the only other pickup tube I had was for a Hemi pan. So I put the Hemi oil, or the Hemi dipstick. I'll get it right eventually. So yeah, I said dipstick, I said oil, or I said oil pan. So yeah, the only thing left is pickup tube, right? So yeah, so I put the Hemi pickup tube on it, and then I had bought a new pickup tube, or a new oil pan, just for the General's new engine. But I'll just have to order another one. I'm gonna go ahead and paint this sucker real quick. I just scuffed it up. You might be able to see the sanding scratches in it. Scuffed it up, cleaned it, washed it, and get ready to spray some paint on it. So then I can get the sucker bolted in the car and hopefully finish the steering today. So, yeah. Ooh, all spiffy looking. Let that sit for about an hour, then we can bolt it on. All right, got my shaft all cleaned up. That didn't sound right. But anyway, the shaft is all cleaned up, and so that way I can slip the... What do I do with it? I had my U-joint here just a second ago. Anyways, before I put the U-joint on for the new, to couple it with the Borges and steering box, I want to replace this bearing here, because once I weld that coupler to there, I won't be able to get this bearing off anymore. So I've had a new bearing for a while sitting in a shelf, so I figured I might as well throw it on this thing. Gonna unbolt this guy, bolt this one on there. Alright, we got the new bearing on, and we got our steering U-joint right here. So this is what's actually gonna couple to the new Borges box. It's not actually welded on yet. I just want to get it on, or get the steering, or blah, 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 blah. I just want to get the steering column in the car so I can start mocking up and getting the steering wheel centered and get the steering box centered before I start welding that thing on there. I could just run a bolt through here and drill a hole through the steering coupler, but over time you start getting play, and I just rather weld it. So, time to slap the sucker in here. Alright. We got the steering column just kind of mocked up in the car, and you can see, well, actually I've already lengthened it a little bit, but the steering shaft itself, this actually was about ½ inch farther back, and the steering shaft itself is a little, you can lengthen it a little bit. So I'm just trying to eyeball it and see how much more. I need to see if I can get down in there a little closer for you. Just trying to see how much longer I need to lengthen it, and I think I would be fine with, if I can get, an 1/8 inch out of it, which I could weld it up right there, but I want to go ahead and get the steering shaft all the way down to the stopper, the little edge that's in there. Get it butted up all the way against that. So I'm gonna see if I can't lengthen that a little more. And how I lengthened it was, I just kind of cheated. I didn't want to pull the steering column back out, so I just stuck a pin down in there, and then I just tapped on it with the hammer, like so. You know, well, of course, harder than that. I got to use 2 hands to do this, but I just wanted to show you how I lengthened it. That was my cheater way to do it, which it worked. I'll take it. Well, oil pan's all prettied up, siliconed up, ready to be bolted back onto this motor. So now we'll have a Hemi pan. So the pan that was on this was a 933, which is a 5-quart pan. This Hemi pan is a 6-quart pan. So that's a bonus. Try and get the tranny line out of the way. All right. So the drag link is centered on this thing. The steering box is centered, and the steering wheel is centered. So now I can pull the welder over here and just put a tack on that steering universal right there. So that way I can pull the steering column back out, and then I'll throw it over to the TIG welder right there, and then I'll TIG the steering coupler to the steering shaft. I also fixed the leak, which actually is just replacing the entire oil pan. So there we go. New old shiny Hemi oil pan right there. All right, well, let me grab the welder over here so I can get a tack on that thing and pull the steering column back out. All right, look at that. Ah, well, looky there. Smurfs got a steering wheel again. I don't want to turn it too much though, because we don't have our lines on this thing yet. And the steering box does have fluid in it. They ship it with fluid. So I need to make my lines, and I've got that all set up in the garage right now. So I need to cut this so that way I can screw on my 6AN adapter fitting and fill this box up with fluid and make some pressure. All right, so we fast forward a little bit because I just want to get this done because it's getting dark and it's getting late, and I got a movie to go to tonight, and I want to drive Smurf. So I went ahead, finished up the hoses real quick, as you can see right there, and we were getting ready to top some fluid off in this sucker and fire this thing up. We just put oil in it, I put a filter on it, so once I get power steering fluid in this thing, hit the key, vroom vroom. All right, now that Smurf's taken care of with the Borges and steering box, and we got that Bondo pitted oil pan off the thing, what I have done this morning is I went ahead and assembled the radio. Yes, assembled. It comes in pieces. This is that retro sound radio. Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, there you go, retro sound. You have to assemble the darn thing. It comes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces, plus the brackets you got to bolt to it. And I mean, yes, it has good internals, you know, I guess. Not as good as like an aftermarket radio, but not really too impressed with it. It just feels cheesy. I mean, all the buttons and dials on it, it just feel cheap, and it's just plastic plated, or it's chrome plated plastic. It just, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it's worth 350 bucks. But the only benefit to it is when you're trying to get a radio to fit your stock faceplate, you're kind of limited. There's two different radios that do this. There's this one, and then there's another one. I forgot the name of it, but it was pricey. It was almost double the price of this one here. This is kind of hard to do all this with both hands are functioning right now. Sorry for moving around too much, but it's all assembled. Now I can pull the factory one out. I had an 8-track radio here that I used just to kind of get the deck height, because you have to set the height on everything. The faceplate, you have to set it this way. You have to cut the depth of it. There's brackets that are on the side of it that hold the faceplate. Well, I had to cut the brackets shorter so that way the faceplate would be at the correct depth of the buttons and the dials. And then the thumb wheels, I had to bend the brackets in and then bend the brackets down so that way it has the factory contour to match the faceplate. Kind of see that there? But then if you just bend this, then it sticks way too far out, so I had to bend it in, then down. I don't know. Sometimes I think I should have just bought the $600 one. But it'll work. I've already bought it. I own it. I'll use it. And then I spent the money. I think it was only like 12 bucks or something, but you can buy these little decals that go over the display screen, because that's just a digital display. It's a green, or actually whatever color you want it to be. So I bought these, but they suck. So yeah, they gave you 3 of them knowing that one of them's going to suck. Well, all 3 of mine sucked. It had stuff, it had debris and stuff stuck to the backside, the adhesive side, so when I tried to get the bubbles out, you can't. It just physically couldn't get the bubbles out, and they have a little trick to it in their instructions to use adhesive tape to get the debris off, but it just didn't work. They suck. It was a waste of 12 bucks. Anyways, now I can get this old girl mounted in the car, but I gotta remove the old one first. It's Wednesday, 2 days before Zip Tie Drags. Getting ready to put our 1/6 roller rockers on so we can get rid of these sewing machine inefficient factory rockers. I mean, look at the play in these things. This is what I'm hearing when the engine's idling or even running. These have so much play in them that they actually slide back and forth on the shaft. So as the cam goes, as the cam is pushing the push rod up, it's actually pushing the rocker more over the valve. And then when the valve is pushing back, when the cam's going down, then the rocker slides backwards. So you're losing lift and duration by that rocker just going back and forth. So it's crap. Getting rid of it. Junk. Wore out, clapped out. And actually, yeah, you should just get rid of those things anytime you have a decent cam in them. Garbage. So, got the new rockers already set up. I mocked them up on another set of cylinder heads. That way I didn't have to spend all the time to do it in the car. So these are all ready. I'm gonna go ahead and start assembling. I got new lash caps. So now the rollers will follow on a lash cap instead of just the top of the valve. Well, go ahead and get these things installed. Yeah, so I don't think Smurf wants to go. Because I got 3 dead lifters just on the one side I started to put the new valve train on, or at least the new rockers. So I wanted to put these rockers on because I was getting a little bit of valve train noise, and I knew the stock rockers clatter like hell. So put these guys on, and I could not adjust these last 3 because they're just the plunger's bottomed out on these 3 lifters. There's no hydraulic pump. So I could leave it like this and they'll just clatter like hell, maybe tear up the lifter, or I just replace the lifters. So we're gonna try and replace the lifters real quick. Do what we can. Food time. Sam.
But this is not a $3,000